Today I'm going to show you how to build your own Neo Soul progressions using spicy jazzy chords like major 9, minor 9, diminished 7, and 6/9 chords. Thanks guys. Step 1, 7th chords. We'll start by building a chord progression in the key of C major. The 7 notes that are in the key of C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C, the octave. In Neo Soul, we want to start with jazzy 4-note 7th chords. So based on the notes in the scale, the chords are going to be C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7 or G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and then C major 7, the octave again, if I can squeeze it in there. These chords are called diatonic chords, which just means that all the notes in the chords are built from the same scale. Later, I will show you how to use non-diatonic chords, so chords that use notes outside the scale to introduce tension. So let's start with a diatonic chord progression of C major 7, A minor 7, F major 7, and G7 or G dominant 7. And G7 works really well as the last chord because it's the 5th chord in the scale and it wants to resolve really strongly back to the C major 7. So the progression is simple, but it still sounds pretty good. Step 2, voice leading. Now, whilst these chords are fine together, it's a bit impractical to play chords so far up and down the neck. So instead, I'll use different voicings or versions of the same chords. With this chord progression, I can use these voicings instead. C major 7, A minor 7, F major 7, and G7. One thing to be aware of when choosing chords is the concept of voice leading. This concept is important in jazz and it generally means how well the chords flow from one to another. To start with, you can look at the highest note in the chord and see how closely they move from one note to the next. The highest notes in these chords are very close together. So we have an E, 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 and then G. So these chords run pretty smoothly from one to the next. So let's hear the progression. Step 3, scale runs. Because this is Neo Soul, we need to start flexing a bit and connecting the chords with some single lead lines. And the best scale to connect these chords is the C major pentatonic scale, as it covers the key notes in the C major scale. It's exactly the same scale as the A minor pentatonic scale, and it's probably one of the first scales that you ever learn. And the only difference is I'm just starting from the C instead of the A. So here's an example of how you can tie the chords together with some simple Neo Soul lines. And the tabs and guitar pros from the lesson today are available on my Patreon. Step 4, 9th chords. We have this perfectly fine chord progression, but these chords are pretty low on the spice scale. To add a bit more spice to the chords, you can use extended chords by adding an extra note or more to the 7th chords. And probably the most common extended chord in Neo Soul are 9th chords, but 6th and 11th chords are also really common. You just need to try them out and see what works best. And also paying attention to that highest note in the chord. So let's switch to C major 9, A minor 9, a really great jazz chord, which is an F6/9, and then G9. And these chords really lend themselves for those Neo Soul embellishments like hammer-ons. and slides. So let's hear the progression. Step 5, non-diatonic chords. So now we have a lovely spicy set of chords, but we can make it even more Neo Soul-y. Neo Soul-y? I mentioned at the start that with the diatonic chords, the 7th chord is a B minor 7 flat 5, but the minor 7 flat 5 chord is difficult to use in a general chord progression as it wants to resolve to the C major 7 too strongly. But I can substitute it with a non-diatonic chord, a B minor 7 chord, which has a non-diatonic F sharp, which is a note outside the C major scale. And now the move from the C major 7 to the B minor 7 has a lovely descending feel to it. And this is a really common Neo Soul trick. I've changed the voicing of the major 7 chord so it moves more smoothly to that B minor 7 as well. Step 6, diminished 7 chords. Before step 6, if you find this video helpful, please help me out by giving the video a like. And if you do like Neo Soul, subscribe for more videos like this. Now, if there's one chord trick which is fundamental to Neo Soul, it's the diminished 7th trick. So here's what a B diminished 7th looks like, for example. And you see this shape a lot in Neo Soul progressions. This chord is used to harmonize melody notes. So if I play a progression of C major 7, B minor 7, and then A minor 7, I can play a descending melody between these chords, like this. But what I can do to make it much more interesting is by using this diminished 7 chord over the top to harmonize the notes. And that sounds great and certainly much more interesting. It's a trick that's not always going to work, but it's definitely worth trying if you want to fill out the harmony. I want my final chord in the progression to be a G9 chord. So to add a bit more tension before I use that chord, I use a G7 sharp 9 chord. And it creates this mini resolution before the G9 chord. And that G7 sharp 9 chord is also called the Hendrix chord. And I hope by now that you've picked up that with the chord progressions, the kind of thing you got to think about constantly is just about tension and release. So add a bit more tension to the chords and then release it with a bit of resolution. Step 7. Putting it all together. So let's link the chords with some all-out Neo Soul tricks like double stops and slippery slides. I've changed the B minor 7 to a B minor 11, and this is a really common Neo Soul chord. And I'm using the full C major scale to give me a few more options harmonically. Now, if you like Neo Soul, I will check out this video next, and see you in the next one.